Just Joe here, and I've got too many movies. Oh, it's also Halloween month, October. That was a wolf. So like I told you last Friday, I told you that the beginning of October, Halloween month, okay, we're gonna do that again. I'm no wolf. Anyway, but in October, for every Friday in October, I was going to watch a Halloween type movie, whether it be a thriller or a horror movie, more than likely, or just something that kind of gets you in the spirit of Halloween. You know, we're counting down the days until October 31st, and I love Halloween every single year. It's one of my favorite holidays. I mean, who wouldn't love it? You get candy, you get to dress up in costumes. I mean, hell. And also just the movies. So many great, scary movies have been made, and not so many good ones, but there have been a lot of great ones, and I have picked out 4 movies for this month. And the first one I'm going to watch is actually, well, it's a classic, and not just a classic, but a classic that kind of started the horror genre in a way. And there were a few, because this movie is from 1931, and it is based off the infamous book by Shelley, also the stage production, but the movie I'm talking about is the very first Frankenstein. That's right, I have the Frankenstein Complete Legacy Collection. I've always wanted to watch the movies of Dracula and Frankenstein and the Wolfman, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, and I have the Invisible Man collection. I also have the Frankenstein collection. And I decided to go with Frankenstein because it's kind of more scary. The Invisible Man movies are actually more comedy-based, actually. But this has all 8 films, including the legendary Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, but I'm not going to watch 4 of them for October. Basically, if I'm pretty happy with what I see today with the first Frankenstein movie, I'm going to, eventually watch the other 7 films in this. And it doesn't have to be October just to watch a Frankenstein movie. It could be any time of the year. So maybe 1 per month or 1 every couple months. I don't know. But for today, I'm going to watch the first Frankenstein movie. See if maybe it still holds up. It's in the National Film Registry. It's still considered one of the greatest movies of all time. Like I said, it kind of started, in a sense, horror movies or scary movies. So, is it gonna hold up? I don't know, but I'm gonna get to it. I mean, hell, look at that. Look at that face. That's a scary face. Hang on, let me see if I can reenact that. Hang on. I'm Frankenstein. But anyway, I'm really excited to watch Frankenstein for the very first time, so I'm gonna go do that. And like I said, I'm just gonna go do that. I'm gonna go watch it. I'm gonna go hopefully be scared because it's Halloween. Oh, not gonna do that again, and I'll be right back. Bye. Okay, I just watched the very first Frankenstein movie from 1931. Okay, all right, now what did I think about it? Did it scare me? Did it get me in the Halloween mood? Is it as good as, is it good now as it was back then? I've got a lot to say about it, so as always, let's start with the plot/script. All right, the plot of Frankenstein, for 2 of you who don't know, because it's been remade a bunch of times and people have read the book, people of course with this movie series, all that stuff. Basically, there's a scientist, Henry Frankenstein, which I didn't know his name was Henry. I thought it was Victor Frankenstein or something, but whatever. I don't really like the name Henry Frankenstein. He just sounds like a normal everyday guy that you'd meet at Kroger or Walmart or something, but whatever. He's a scientist determined to bring back a corpse to life. He thinks that he can bring life to a dead body if you put a brain in it and whatever. So, I mean, basically the movie begins like all the famous scenes are there, Frankenstein and Igor, I'm sorry, not Igor, Fritz. The Hunchback's name is Fritz. I want Igor. I would even take Igor. I don't want Fritz. Fritz? Go give me that brain, Fritz. No, it's not as cool as Igor. Igor. Made that mistake, sorry. I've seen too much Young Frankenstein. Coffee. But anyway, at the very beginning, a man gets buried in a cemetery, and Frankenstein and Fritz, take the body with them. They also find another body. I still don't really fully understand. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. I guess they have 2 bodies now? Why? But anyway, they got their bodies, and eventually Fritz goes to a college, and he's gonna take the normal brain. There's an abnormal brain right next to it, but he drops, and I'm sorry it made me laugh, but he drops the normal brain when he gets scared, and he takes the abnormal brain, doesn't tell Frankenstein. Eventually, Frankenstein, when he's about ready to start his experiment to reanimate this dead dude thing, his fiancée and a friend of hers, who it seemed like was going to be a rival of Frankenstein, but he's not for some reason. I thought that was a wasted story opportunity, but whatever. And this other guy, another doctor who trained Frankenstein, they go to basically Frankenstein's castle, and to try to stop him, he creates he creates the monster, which people mistakenly always call Frankenstein. I did for a long time, but it's not. It's just the monster, and he brings him back to life. At first, he seems just kind of almost like a child, but they mistake something he does when when Igor he's kind of mean to the monster, actually. Seems like very jealous, but they don't really go into that. And eventually the monster has his first kill, and he's gonna be put down, but then he escapes, and then he kind of goes on this little journey and meets a little girl, and that whole scene. And then eventually the whole town turns against him. Frankenstein's trying to get married, and he has to come to terms with his monster and go find him, hunt him down. And I thought to save him, but actually it was to destroy him. And that's really all I can say, because I'd ruin the rest of the movie for those of you who haven't seen it. But that's the plot of Frankenstein. Now the script, I've never read the book, and I didn't read the stage adaptation, I didn't see the stage adaptation either. But my opinion, this movie is only 1 hour and 10 minutes. And for back in 1931, that was a long-ass movie. Movies weren't even 1.5 hours or 2 or 3 hours or whatever. That's just not what they did. But to me, there could have been another 20 minutes of character development, and I'll get to the characters here in a minute, and story. It's just, I don't mind the story. It was cool how it just jumps right into it. And I knew all these famous scenes because I've seen them, in Young Frankenstein, but also in other Frankenstein movies, remakes, whatever, and it's been parodied a lot. So I basically knew this. I knew this movie by heart, but I was actually very surprised that it didn't go to places I thought it would go. Like, I thought it seemed like a lot of wasted story opportunities. We don't really get to know any of the characters, and I'll get to that in a second. We don't have time to sympathize with Frankenstein's monster. The story to me, it wasn't, the script, it wasn't, it was a good script for back then. It's really hard to judge something from 1931. Film was still just kind of a newish concept, and they not perfected, not even saying it's still perfected, but it's hard to judge it because they made it as well as they could. They did as well as they could, but it was a simpler time for film and also for script writing. And the script, I just felt like there was so much more to be fleshed out with the characters, with the monster. It really could have told a deep, dark, interesting story, and everything just felt rushed. It just felt really rushed, where I recognized the big scenes and those were awesome, and some of the dialogue was really cool, and it's alive, it's alive, it's alive! Every time I get up in the morning and I've got morning wood, I say the exact same thing. I've been doing that since I was 15 years old. I really wish I wouldn't have admitted it. But to me, it's hard to judge this, but I just feel like for the first movie in the series, it set up a lot of cool stuff, and this I'll go ahead and say the sets, the backgrounds were awesome. It looks beautiful in black and white, but it just, I just felt it was disappointing in a sense, because yes, it's from 1931, and I keep saying that, I know, and I don't want to judge it, but I have to, because even though I was very entertained by this movie, it is still an entertaining movie and still does hold up. I just felt as if it felt like too rushed a story. It couldn't hold my attention. It couldn't grab me the way that it should have, because all the elements were there, but the script wasn't well enough put together. It didn't feel right. It could have been much more fleshed out. But again, it's hard to judge something from 1931 because that's just the way movies were. But that's how I feel. All right, next up, I talk about the cast / the characters. I have nothing bad to say about this cast. The guy who played Henry Frankenstein is a lot of fun. He's really cool. He's not as maniacal as I would have wanted. He kind of has his moments, but it's really kind of, it's low key in a sense. It's alive scene, that was cool. But he's crazy. He's so determined that he can do this. But then again, we don't know why. Why is he so determined? What, his character is not fleshed out. And even with his sidekick, Igor, not Fritz. But that character, the guy did a good job, but it wasn't fleshed out. And even when he meets his untimely demise, I'm cool with stuff being, you have to leave it up to your imagination. I'm cool with that. That's great writing, and this movie has great writing. But he was like torturing the monster, and it's only a couple scenes. I just want to know why. Why was he jealous? Nothing was really set up to explain that. It didn't make any sense. But all the characters, I have no complaints about the characters, and I really have no complaints about the cast. Like, the whole cast did just fine. They did a good job, and most of them are memorable. Even though the fiance of Frankenstein is just kind of playing the normal everyday woman from back in the 1930s, she's memorable. She's very pretty. She's a good actress. She does a good job. The only character I didn't like was the father of Frankenstein. I just didn't like the actor. I didn't think he played it real weird, and just like the first time you see him, he's in a pipe. He's like, "Well, where's my son Frankenstein?" And he really annoyed me, and I didn't like him throughout the entire movie. I don't like that the last shot of the movie is him, with his pipe, or with a drink or whatever. I really did not like him. But also, the Frankenstein monster, I believe Boris Karloff, if I get that wrong, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure it's Boris Karloff. He did a great job and really seals the show, even though Frankenstein's monster is not in this that much. But he's very good, and I did sympathize with the monster, and I felt bad for him, especially at the very end. The cries that he lets out, for reasons you'll see if you've seen the movie or will see the movie, it's so sad, and he's really the only character in the movie I felt deeply for. He didn't know what he was doing. He's got an abnormal brain. He's basically a child just born, and he doesn't know what he's doing is wrong. He just knows, he doesn't want to feel pain, and if he's feeling pain, he's going to do something about it. He knows how to defend himself. Even shout out to the little girl. She did a great job. The little girl they got, but she sounded like an adult woman, which has really creeped me out. But that was a great scene, and originally they took that scene out. And even the line, "It's alive, it's alive," he goes, "I know how God feels," or "Now I know what it's like to be God," or something. They originally took that out. I'm glad they've restored the original version for nowadays, but that stuff was controversial back then. To say that you were God, holy shit, Jesus Christ, that was a big deal. And even the little girl scene, and I won't ruin what happens. You've seen, it was parodied in Young Frankenstein brilliantly. But I'm glad they put that back in, but it's got some child violence. Nothing horrible, obviously. But the scene is beautiful. And it does make sense. It's rushed, like most of the movie. And that's kind of how I feel about, like, the cast was great, I'll say that, but the characters, you never really got to know any of them. And if the script would have been more fleshed out, the movie would have been even 20 minutes longer. And we had more time with Frankenstein and the monster. Like, honestly, I hate to say it, but Young Frankenstein did it. Like, to me, Young Frankenstein, even though obviously it's not a remake of Frankenstein, but it basically follows the exact same story, taking elements from what I know from the other Frankenstein movies. But honestly, Young Frankenstein is a better Frankenstein movie than Frankenstein, because it takes the time, even though it's only like an hour and a half or an hour and 40 minutes, to the time between Frankenstein and his monster, and Frankenstein and his fiance, and just everything that should have been in the first movie that would have made me love it even more. It's not a complete film. And the characters were there and they were good, but they could have been great. And the cast at least was well cast for the most part, except for that father dude. I did not like him. But anyway, it's, cast of characters, fine. And last but not least, I'll talk about the directing, editing, and the music. Again, it's hard for me to really pick apart any of these, because the directing was good. guy, his last name Whale was a director. I can't remember his, but he does a good job, and he comes up with some really unique shots. There's one towards the end of the movie when Frankenstein comes face to face with his monster, and there's like a spinning. They're in the farmhouse, and it's a spinning thing. I don't know what it is, but it's a spinning thing, and they're looking at each other through it. It was so beautiful. It was such a great shot. But a lot of the shots, it's just with these sets and the backgrounds. And he knows when to be close, he knows when to really, let the set speak for themselves and everything, some odd choices here and there, but the direction, especially for back then, was fantastic. And the editing isn't good. Again, it's hard for me to pick it apart because it is good for back then, but some of the shots are so quick, and again, the editing really is kind of the worst part of this movie, in my opinion, because it doesn't let the story breathe, doesn't let moments breathe, it doesn't let the dialogue breathe. A lot of the shit is just real quick cuts, and again, it's just what it was back then, but it bothered me, because it's like, the movie could have been much more, in my opinion, than it was, but again, it's just the way it was, so the editing was meh. And the music was good. There's not a lot of music in it, but it's very famous music, and it's been copied so many times, but the music was beautiful in this, and it added to the story, and it was kind of the creepiest part of the movie, because the movie did not scare me at all. I mean, it's not creepy. It didn't make me laugh or anything. I took it seriously, but it's not really a scary movie. It's not even really creepy, but the music was a little creepy sometimes and got under my skin a little bit because it added so much to certain scenes. So, the music was very good. So my final thoughts on Frankenstein, after listening to me, you may think like, wow, you didn't really like this. And I did. I enjoyed it a lot. It does hold up, and it is one of the greatest movies ever made. You have to bow down. It's like paying homage to the grandparents in your family. Maybe your father or maybe you have done more than your grandparents have because more opportunity or more knowledge was given to you. If Frankenstein was made today, it could be a better movie if it was original. If this was the first time the Frankenstein story came out, it would probably be better if the right people were behind it. But for 1931, this, blew the socks off people. It scared people. The effects, the way the monster looks, the special effects with the scars in the face is phenomenal. Like I said, the sets, the backdrops are beautiful. It looks great in black and white. The cast was good, except for that one dude. Props going to the little girl and to Boris Karloff as Frankenstein's monster. And even Henry Frankenstein, the guy who played him, did a great job, was very memorable. The directing was fine, the editing was meh, but music was good. I enjoyed this movie a lot. It didn't scare me, but I do recommend it to watch around the Halloween season because it's a lot of fun to watch old movies like this. And there are far better movies, and better because they will actually scare you or terrify you, which is what people want around Halloween. But if you want to watch kind of the granddaddy of them all, watch the first Frankenstein because I enjoyed it immensely. I just feel like there was more movie here that should have been there. It should have been an hour and a half. There could have been so much more. Hell, this could have been a 2-hour movie. It really could have been fleshed out. And to me, honestly, it makes me want to watch Young Frankenstein. It doesn't, it does make me want to watch the rest of the Frankenstein movies because I've heard the sequels are superior to Frankenstein. I don't remember if it's Bride of Frankenstein or Son of Frankenstein, but one of those is considered the greatest Frankenstein movie ever made. So I look forward to seeing that in the coming months. I really do, because right now I'm kind of wanting the Frankenstein movie that I thought I was going to get with this. I knew it'd only be an hour and 10 minutes. And I got all the scenes that I knew were going to be there, but it wasn't a complete movie in my opinion. And from what I've heard, you get that eventually. So I am excited for that. But I did love it a lot. I'm so happy I finally got to see it. And, I do highly recommend it. So I give the very first Frankenstein from 1931 a Just Joe rating of 4 out of 5. So So thank you very much for tuning in to Too Many Movies with me, Just Joe. Look in the description below for all the links to my Facebook page, to the Twitter page, Instagram, the podcast Facebook page that I'm sometimes on. What were we talking about? My buddy Jake. And all the links are in the description below. And I do a new video every single Friday where I watch a movie from my collection. Like I said, it's October, it's Halloween month, which means I've got at least 3 more movies to go, 3 more Fridays. If there's more, then cool, I'll do 4. But I think just 3. And I've already got 3 movies picked out. I'm excited to watch them and get me in the Halloween spirit, because Frankenstein did kind of get me in the Halloween spirit a little bit. But maybe next week's movie will really get me in the Halloween spirit. But anyway, I look forward to seeing you guys next Friday. Obviously, I still got too many movies. Looks like I got more to watch, and I will see. Quiet on the set.